Welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, where you will find both the inspiration to grow and the actions to implement towards your next level. I am your host, 𝗁𝗁𝗲𝗄𝗯𝗹, and I've been on a journey of personal development and self-mastery for 6 years now, and my mission is to inspire you to stand out and take action towards living your best life. In this podcast, I invite myself inside the minds of authors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life and also give you actions you can take and implement. So, on my ongoing journey of the podcast, on Thursday's episodes, I now focus on consolidation. Repetition is the mother of all learning, as they say. So instead of adding more knowledge, I revisit the previous episodes and consolidate the wisdom imparted by my guests. In today's episode, we will cover discussions around the topic of speaking, communication, storytelling, and also of having those uncomfortable conversations. I revisit 4 of the previous episodes, and my intention is to distill the wisdom of my guests on these topics and to share it with you in a way that you will find something that clicks, something that inspires you to take some action as a result. So, my 4 guests we will listen to today are David Saville, Renée Marino, RIchi Watson, and David Wood. And the first one we will listen to is David Saville, who was featured on episode 8. So David was one of the very first episodes of the podcast. He is a professional storyteller, a coach and a trainer. And he talked about storytelling being able to communicate the memories of an event and also the emotions in the story. Let's listen to David.
So storytelling is simply being able to communicate the memories that are real things that happen to you to another person in a way that communicates what it meant to you and that you're able to connect with, essentially. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what we're talking about, connection. Storytelling is connection. And people often get confused with storytelling because of the nature of the label, perhaps, that they need to exaggerate or embellish, or they need to use very eloquent wording. You don't. You need to communicate the emotions in the story and why it matters to you. And this is related to, it's not about what you've done, it's about who you are, and that's what you're expressing through what you've done.
And here are 2 things one can do to become a better storyteller.
In the talk, I focused on 2 specific things for that. And that was 1, to communicate, why you care. To actually share the emotion and why you care within your story. Make sure that storytelling, you can get as good at. There's lots of things you can learn about storytelling, right? But literally, if you just share, when you're talking about something you've done, just share something, you can feel the emotion and the way you'll feel it yourself, right? This is another thing. If you want someone to appreciate what you've been through, you have to feel the emotion yourself, because through your emotion, you will communicate that and lead someone else to join you in that emotion through an empathetic response, which is what we're conditioned, what our brains do, right? We have empathy for people. And the way we do that is we can see the emotion, experience the emotion of the person, and we get a flavor of that ourselves. And it's one of those things. The world is full of various different people, but the one thing that bonds all of us, apart from a small number of society, are our emotions. So make sure there's emotion within the story. And often you'll get there by sharing why you care, what it means to you within the story. So another thing really is to go first. Don't wait for people to, because this is the other mistake people make. They're always waiting for someone to go first and an opening to then share vulnerably, right? That is a way to make life small, because most people are waiting for someone else to lead. It's just the way the majority of people are when you interact and you're at a networking event or a party or whatever. if you're willing to go straight to the heart of it and to share something honest and vulnerable that's real for you, you're opening a doorway. You're taking someone. You're opening your hand. You're going. I'm opening my hand to you, and I'm sharing something that means something to me. Do you want to take my hand? And some people will, some people won't. If you be that person, guess what? You'll connect with the right people quickly if you do.
The second of my guests that we will listen to today is Renée Marino. Renée was my guest in the celebratory episode 50. She has an amazing, contagious energy, as you will listen very shortly. And she's a communication coach, but also a Broadway performer. And she has also starred in Clint Eastwood's film Jersey Boys. So one of the things she discussed was communication, and in particular how the way that we use technology lessens our authentic communication.
Well, Aggie, communication really is, I think, one of our greatest tools, and that is in our personal relationships and in our professional relationships. What I find, and I'm sure you all can identify with this, we are in this day and age of technology, which is beautiful and wonderful, and it's a gift. But with so much gain in one area, there always has to be a loss in another. And I believe that that loss has been in our authentic communication.
Yes.
What do I mean by this? How many times have you maybe been in an argument with someone and you're literally going back and forth through text messages? Now, the problem with that is we can't read tone through a text, right? You can't feel my passion through a text. So then on the other end, what you're doing is a whole lot of assuming about what I'm really saying, about what I'm really feeling, and that never matches up. And I've had situations in my own life where it blew out of proportion because we just never got to speak face to face or have an actual like ear to ear phone call. And this is what is causing so many issues for us nowadays, because we're kind of forgetting how to do that, what I call old school simplicity, right? In my book, I call it merging these two worlds of new school technology with old school simplicity. Yes. Old school simplicity being, that meeting up face to face, or, sitting down on a bench, grabbing coffee together, or picking up the actual phone, right? Without using our thumbs to communicate. And we're losing that because everything else is so much easier in our minds. It's easier to shoot you an email. It's easier to text you. So because of this, we're finding that we're having issues in our relationships. We're having a lot of miscommunication. And I just believe that it's much simpler than we're making it.
And we will also listen to two of my guests talking about uncomfortable conversations or tough conversations. And we will listen first to RIchi Watson, who was featured in episode 58. RIchi is a deep transformation coach and life development mentor. So he spoke about the need we have to have uncomfortable conversations, or we will have an uncomfortable life, as he says. Let's listen to RIchi.
But what we've done, of course, is we've come to a place over our lifetime of avoiding feeling bad because it's undesirable. So we're avoiding the uncomfortable. So it's like, okay, we don't want to put our hand in the fire, but also it becomes we don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation. And we need to have uncomfortable conversations. We need to, because if we don't, we'll have an uncomfortable life. We need to go into uncomfortable places. Why? Because if we don't, we're never going to get the things that we really want. We're not going to accomplish what we want in life, and we're not going to be able to be and become the human being we need to be to accomplish them. We need to be able to do that. And a fundamental reframing of the meaning of supposedly negative feelings, because they're not a negative thing. They may be an unpleasant experience, but they're there for you. And if we're doing that, we're willingly including them, then we transcend them.
And on the same topic, we will also listen an audio clip by David Wood, who is a high-performing business coach who created one of the world's largest coaching businesses. In my conversation with David, which was in episode 110, one of the things that was discussed was these tough conversations that we avoid and how by avoiding them we form boundaries.
Well, just as I mentioned the Truman Show earlier, the tough conversations that we have not had form the boundaries of our world. Just like the Truman Show, he had physical walls that he didn't even know about. Well, we have boundaries that we don't even know about. And they lie just at the edge of our discomfort zone. So we have, and I include myself in this, we have become slaves to our comfort. And what that means is if something possibly awkward comes up, like someone threw a cigarette butt down on the ground, or someone's late for me, or my assistant is made a mistake again and I want to hold them accountable, but I don't want it to feel awkward. We tend to just avoid those things. In fact, our brain is so good at helping us avoid those things, it won't even bring it up. It won't even say, hey, you could talk to your partner about this. You know, your kids seem to be not interested in you anymore because, you know, they're teenagers going through a phase and I'd love to connect with them, but I don't know how. There's a tough conversation, right? So I think it's so, just as it's important to take a cold shower or do some kind of a practice to train your brain, I think it's critical to have those tough conversations, because if you're willing to speak your truth, one, you can feel better about yourself. I like myself more when I speak my truth. Okay, that's one benefit. Second benefit, you are modeling good behavior for the entire planet. So I'm such a fan of tough conversations. I know as soon as I say tough conversations, some people switch off. They're like, oh, I don't want to have tough conversations. That sounds terrible. That sounds awkward. Well, let's call them conversations in the discomfort zone. They can produce such amazing results.
I hope you found something valuable among these parts of the conversations, and also something actionable, something you can implement yourself. If you enjoyed this episode, I certainly intend to do more of them to condense the wisdom contained in these conversations and distill it in a way into actionable items that you can pick up and implement in order to change and grow and improve your life. But I would like your help. Tell me, what is your biggest challenge? What kind of content would you like to hear? Go to personaldevelopmentmasterypodcast.com and send me a message. And a quick question before I go. Have you ever thought of having your own podcast, sharing your voice, making an impact, but you don't have the time or the computer skills to learn how to create and launch a podcast? If that resonates, then I have a solution for you. A solution that takes away all the complexity and allows you to concentrate only on creating your content. Go to my website, 𝗷𝗲𝘃𝗀𝗶 and get your free copy of my guide on how to create and launch your podcast in 7 simple steps. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.